Butter, an ancient luxury only the rich could afford. In the annals of culinary history, butter holds a special place, a staple in kitchens today, yet once a coveted luxury, reserved for only the most affluent households. The journey of butter, from its humble origins to its status as a symbol of wealth and opulence, is a story woven through time, geography, and social class. To understand why butter was once considered a luxury, we must travel back to its beginnings, when butter was far from an everyday item. In fact, it was something precious, born out of labor-intensive processes and treasured for its rich flavor and versatility. Our journey begins thousands of years ago, when the art of buttermaking first emerged. Historians trace butter's origins to ancient Mesopotamia, where nomadic tribes discovered that the milk from their herds could be churned into a rich, fatty substance. These early buttermakers realized that by shaking milk in animal skin bags, they could separate the creamy butterfat from the liquid buttermilk. Though the process was rudimentary, the result was extraordinary, a thick, golden substance that could be spread, melted, or used in cooking. But butter was not widely consumed in the ancient world. In many regions, it was seen as a food of the common folk, something for peasants or rural farmers who had access to fresh milk. The elites of societies such as Greece and Rome favored olive oil, which was abundant in the Mediterranean and considered a more refined fat. Butter was viewed as a coarse product, unsuited to the refined tastes of the upper classes. In Northern Europe, however, butter began to take on a different role. The cooler climates of Scandinavia, Ireland, and the British Isles were ideal for dairy farming, and butter became a vital part of the diet. By the medieval period, butter was being produced in large quantities, yet even in these butter-rich regions, it was still considered a luxury item. The reason? Buttermaking was a time-consuming process that required significant resources, primarily the ability to keep cows healthy and producing milk year-round. During this time, butter became a symbol of both wealth and scarcity. Most peasants could not afford to keep enough cows to produce a surplus of milk for butter. They might have a small amount for personal use, but for much of Europe, butter was scarce, and only the wealthiest households could afford to have it regularly. It wasn't just the cost of the milk, it was the labor. Churning butter by hand was arduous work, and in an era without modern refrigeration, keeping butter fresh was a challenge. This made it an expensive commodity, treasured by the few who could afford it. The church also played a role in butter's journey from humble beginnings to a symbol of luxury. During the Middle Ages, Catholic dietary restrictions imposed during Lent forbade the consumption of animal fats, including butter. The wealthy found ways around these restrictions, often paying for indulgences that allowed them to consume butter during times of fasting. In some regions, entire markets were dedicated to selling butter indulgences, further driving up its value and contributing to its reputation as a luxury good. In fact, in northern France, during Lent, some cathedrals even levied a special butter tax that allowed the wealthy to continue consuming it during periods of abstinence. As Europe entered the Renaissance, butter began to gain a new level of prestige. The court of Louis XIV in France was particularly fond of butter, incorporating it into elaborate dishes that demonstrated both the culinary creativity and the wealth of the aristocracy. Butter sauces, rich pastries, and fine confections all made their way into the kitchens of the elite, transforming butter from a rustic dairy product into a symbol of refinement and luxury. However, it wasn't just the upper classes who viewed butter as something special. In rural areas, butter was often used as a form of currency. In Ireland, for example, butter was stored in barrels and traded across Europe. Irish butter became highly prized, and by the 17th century, the city of Cork had become a major butter exporting hub. The butter trade contributed to the economic growth of regions that could produce it in large quantities, reinforcing its value both as a food and as a commodity. The Industrial Revolution, beginning in the late 18th century, marked a significant turning point in butter's history. With advancements in agriculture and dairy farming, as well as the invention of mechanical butter churns, butter production became more efficient. This led to an increase in availability, and for the first time, butter began to transition from a luxury product to something more accessible. Yet, even as butter became more common, its luxurious reputation lingered. In Victorian England, butter was a prized element of the afternoon tea table. Served with scones and jam, it was a symbol of refinement and proper English hospitality. Butter was also featured prominently in French haute cuisine, where the chefs of the day used it to create rich sauces that elevated simple ingredients to the realm of the extraordinary. In the 19th century, as the Industrial Revolution spread, so too did the availability of butter. Railroads and refrigeration allowed for the transport of butter across great distances, making it more widely accessible. However, its production still required resources, good pastureland, a reliable milk supply, and skilled labor, so while butter was no longer exclusively for the elite, it remained a product with a certain cachet. The rise of margarine in the late 19th century posed a significant challenge to butter's dominance. Created as a cheaper, more stable alternative to butter, margarine was designed to provide a similar texture and flavor at a fraction of the cost. For working-class families, margarine offered an affordable option, but it was never quite able to capture the rich, creamy essence of true butter. This difference in quality ensured that butter maintained its status as the preferred fat for those who could afford it. Today, butter is ubiquitous, a staple in kitchens worldwide. But while it is more accessible than ever, its legacy as a luxury item remains. Artisanal butters, made from high-quality cream and churned with care, command premium prices and are cherished by chefs and home cooks alike. In the world of fine dining, butter is often treated with the same reverence as wine or truffles, a nod to its centuries-old status as a symbol of wealth and refinement. As we spread butter on our toast or use it to enrich a sauce, we are participating in a culinary tradition that stretches back millennia. From its humble beginnings in the pastures of ancient Mesopotamia to its role in the courts of kings, butter has been a prized possession, a luxury that speaks to the richness of the land and the skill of those who produce it. The story of butter is not just a tale of food, but of civilization itself, a reminder that even the simplest pleasures can hold great meaning in the course of history.